Good morning, welcome back to Bookkeepers Bootcamp. I'm Zoe Whitman, I'm joined by Jo Wood, and we're joined today by Karen Kennedy from Kennedy Accountancy, to get that right. Karen, it's so nice to see you again. I know you had a little chat with me yesterday in our Six Figure Bookkeepers Club, but we're going to go into more detail about your business and your rebrand that you've had recently, and I think this is going to be really inspiring for everyone who's joining us. If you are watching us live, let us know that you're live, or if you're on the replay, let us know if you're watching the replay, and ask us some questions. I think Karen's had such an amazing journey over the last less than a year, so you might want to ask her for some tips, and I'm sure she's happy to share. So Karen, thanks so much for taking the time this morning. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, pleased to be here, and just ask questions if you want to know anything.
So, well, let's start from the beginning. Karen, why don't you give us a bit of a background about what you've done in the past and how you got into bookkeeping and accountancy and where you are today?
Okay, yeah. I actually studied law at university just for something to do, really. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. A lot of my family are self-employed, so I'd always been kind of around bookkeeping, and my mum used to have those awful big red books doing my dad's accounts, and graduated, and then kind of off the cuff, got offered a job in an accountancy firm, and there was 3 partners, and one of the kind of senior staff were tasked with looking after me. And I will never forget, one of the partners wasn't there the first week I was there, but the second week I was there, she came into the office. I shared an office with this older lady who was training me. She opened the door and she spoke to my colleague and just completely ignored me. And I was like, wow, what a weird woman. And I always remember thinking, I will never, ever do that to someone. But that was based in Inverness, which is about 70 miles from where I live now, which is where I grew up. And I always wanted to come home. And then I got offered the chance to do my actual chartered accountancy traineeship with a firm at home. So I moved back, did that, was working away quite happily, had my first child, did not have a good experience when I said I wanted to take the full year and I wanted to go back flexibly. So I just said, okay, well, I'm not coming back then. Because even then I was well aware that I couldn't sustain what I was doing with a young baby. And then I took a job at a local, and at the time I was like, I don't feel like I'm qualified for this, but let's give it a go. And it was a great experience, a real learning curve. But always in the back of my mind was like, I don't feel like I'm helping anyone, really. I'm just ticking boxes for funders was basically how I saw it. And then come COVID and lockdown, trying to keep a college afloat, which has no students in it, plus having what were they then, 1 and 3-year-old at home. And my husband was still, he works for Openreach, so he was still out at work. It was horrendous. And I just kind of thought, I think this is the push that I needed to just create something that's going to suit my life. So applied for my practicing certificate, got it, handed my notice in July last year, and then worked 3 months. And during those 3 months, I did as much homework as I could in terms of how to set up a kind of digital accountancy firm. And then my last day was 23rd of October last year. So I've been going since then. So that's the long and the short of it. And I had another baby as well when I was working at the college.
It's amazing. Karen, you always share views from your house. So if anyone follows Karen online, you'll see like photos of her, like just enjoying where you live. Like you live in a really beautiful place. And I guess being a virtual practice has been, I don't know where you are, but I imagine that you really need to be virtual to make it possible. How have you felt, or how have your clients found that? Has that worked for you with finding clients?
Yeah, and I mean, so in my local community, my sort of client base, a lot of it is local, but for up here, local means within 60 miles, whereas probably where you are, 60 miles are probably about 1,000 other accountancy bookkeeping practices, so it's quite different. But I mean, most of the other firms up here would be more traditional and not virtual. So I suppose it's been quite different for a lot of my clients. But yeah, they've embraced it. And you know, a lot of the Zoom calls that I've been on, if people don't know where I am, they're like, "Wow, is that a fake backdrop that you've got?" It's not.
It's beautiful. I mean, did you have issues with setting up a virtual business being so remote? I've listened to the fact that your husband works for Openreach, so I'm assuming that you managed to get good broadband and stuff sorted.
Yeah, like that sort of thing's not an issue actually where we are. And I do speak to people. Like I was speaking to a guy in Norwich the other day, and he was like, "Oh, my Wi-Fi is terrible," but up here we've got super fast broadband. We're not quite as sort of out in the sticks as that, but so it's been fine from a technology perspective. And yeah, it's been interesting building up relationships with clients that I didn't know previously, and then I've met a couple of them actually in person, and it's really quite strange. You know, that first meeting, it's like, oh, you're not on a screen.
Yeah, I kind of know you, but I also really don't know you.
Yeah.
Like Jo was saying at the digital accountancy show, you don't know how tall people are.
I know. But yeah, I think in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, are people going to not like, someone working from home and having things over Zoom? But you just got to do it. And then you realize that, if people don't like that, then they're not your ideal client. So that's fine.
So you told me yesterday, and people we're streaming this on LinkedIn as well and YouTube, so some people might not have seen the chat we had. You told me that you've, in less than a year, so you started late October last year, and we're now in September 2021, and you've grown to 70 clients already. How have you found those clients? I guess you've met some people locally, but also virtually. What have you been doing to reach them?
So one of my main company values is community, and it can be hard to articulate unless you've been where I live, how strong the community is. So I put an ad in the local paper, which for some people is probably like, oh, what an old-fashioned thing to do, but up here it works because everyone gets the local paper. So that's kind of how I got my first sort of few clients that got me going. And then there's a lot of word of mouth. So that coupled with social media, I think has really, it's just been it's a good combination. That's really how it's worked. I've not really done any sort of, apart from the first advert, I've not done any targeted like marketing as such, but I am keeping my posting on social media consistent so people still know that I'm there. Because the clients have been coming in in a nice steady stream, but when I do want more clients, I can ramp that up a bit, but at least people are still knowing that I'm around.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of comments here. Wow, 70 clients in less than a year. And then Caroline said, Karen, I need to know how you manage 70 clients on your own with 2 young children. What is your secret? What kind of services are you giving to these clients? Because that might help people understand how you're doing it. And then someone else asked, do you have, that was some self-assessment, once a year service type? And yeah, other people are asking, is it a mix of client types? Everyone wants to know. So yeah. What does your practice look like?
So that's why I always say, yeah, I've got 70 clients, but some of them, so I would say probably, I don't know, 10 to 20% are like once a year tax returns. But also I don't market it to them as once a year because that's my thing. I say, when a prospect comes on board, I say, you won't hear from me once a year. Like we keep in touch. And if you don't want that, that's fine. So yeah, there's this sort of self-assessment tax returns. Then I've got probably 20 or so kind of sole traders. And most of them now I'm actually doing their bookkeeping as well. Some of them moved over to me and I was just doing the sort of year-end accounts, tax return. But they've seen that it's much easier if I do the bookkeeping. And then I've got like obviously limited companies and things like that, some of them have in-house bookkeepers, but some of them I'm providing the full service to. So yeah, it's a real mix. But I really like the ones that I'm doing the bookkeeping for as well, because I just have that oversight of their business and I can provide them more value. And I do think accountants, and this is speaking as an accountant, so I can say this, I do think some accountants are snobby towards like, oh, bookkeeping, why are you doing that? But then they speak to their clients once a year, like 9 months usually after the year end's passed. I'm like, well, what value are you giving your clients? Because it's too late to do anything. So that's kind of how I pitch it, is doing the full service. And then when it comes to year end, it's simple because I know what's going on. So yeah, I really like this kind of the full finance package.
There are loads of great questions coming through, and I suppose just thinking about how you manage that workload. I know you're bringing somebody into the business, aren't you? What do you do to make sure that your processes are as streamlined as possible so you can, I suppose, be as efficient as possible? Are you using the same software systems for all of your clients, or anything else to help you with that?
Yeah, so kind of for sort of task management, I'm using Pixie, and I went round the houses. I was using Centa for a while, but I was just completely overwhelmed, and I think I just kind of got a mind block with it. And then I moved over to Pixie and just implemented it in a day in the end, after wasting weeks of time not actually doing anything. So yeah, I use Pixie. Most of my clients are on Xero. I've got a couple that clients that I inherited that are on QuickBooks. And some of the once a year tax returns are still paper records, but I just fire it through a scan snap and put it through Dext. So the sort of, the Dext side of things is almost like another person. So I think that's how I've managed to manage it. But I am getting to the point, so that's why I'm bringing on my new employee next month, is because I don't want to have to turn people away, but I'm getting to the point where I've got my work planned out and I'm like, I can't really, fit too many more in. So I'm taking on a trainee, and he'll be getting stuck into the bookkeeping side of things and get his own portfolio of clients so he can keep those regular touch points going, because that's what I'm really focused on, is, great customer service. So I need to keep those levels high. And I've seen it before where I've worked previously that, the clients are flooding in and it's all good, but then it comes to actually doing the work and, they might get forgotten about or things like that. So it's a juggle. I'm not going to lie. I'm always really honest, and this business is totally flexible. So I can go and, get my kids off the bus, and I don't work on a Friday, so I'm taking Archie to his swimming lessons later. But the reality is, when they go to bed, yeah, I am working at nights, but that's fine because it's flexible. So
I expect, like a lot of people, work and running your business is your hobby as well. When you're an entrepreneur, I think for a lot of us, we just love it. So
yeah, I think that's it. It's different when you love something. So
Sarah's asked a question. What does your usual day look like? I'm trying to get into a nice routine of all the client work. So how do you mix up doing the work, maintaining those relationships, onboarding, social media? How do you have a specific plan to your week?
So a Monday I keep for working on the business, and it's really tempting sometimes to try and just get through the work that's needing done for like client work. But I stick to that and I work on the business. So usually like an hour on a Monday morning, I'll go through my own bookkeeping, but that's as automated as it can be. So it doesn't take long. And then I'll do, well, if I'm organized, I'll do like a wee social media plan. But to be honest, that's kind of fallen by the wayside. And then I'll either do some sort of CPD on a Monday or plan out my work for the rest of the week. So I do feel kind of organized. And I've got a target to get all my 2021 self-assessments done by the end of October. So I've got them planned out week by week. And then so usually on a Tuesday, I'll kind of fire through all my bookkeeping clients. So I kind of do that in kind of two halves, so like a Tuesday morning, a Wednesday morning. And then in the afternoon of those days, I'll either have, it might be meetings booked in with clients or doing client work. And obviously with deadlines and things, I'm kind of organized in what's priority. But what I try and focus on doing is not let things get important and urgent, that quadrangle thing. So I do have two limited companies with September deadlines that so they're kind of getting important and urgent. So they're my focus for the next kind of couple of weeks. And they've been quite messy jobs that I took over. And it's like, what is it they say, swallowing that frog, like the thing that you don't want to do. But the more you leave it, the more it festers. So I think it's kind of, I just try and plan as much as possible so I don't feel overwhelmed, because, recently that has been happening when I'm like, right, I don't know where I'm at. And then that makes me feel a bit stressed. So it's all about sort of planning. And then kind of a Thursday will be all client work. And then maybe a Thursday afternoon, because I don't work a Friday, I just make sure all my communications or anything I need to send to clients has gone out. And I don't work on a Friday, but usually, if I've got opportunities like this or anything that's kind of on the business, I'll do that if I can get childcare and I want to do it, basically. So that's it.
Do you have a break at the weekends, Karen?
Yeah.
That's
Not
really
always. Like sometimes, I think that's the thing with when you love it. I actually really enjoy on a Saturday morning, if Graham's at home, that, he has the boys and I work on the business, because I just enjoy it. But we're also, just to add to the chaos, we're building a holiday home at the moment, and that's kind of getting near completion. So Graham's kind of busy on a Saturday doing that. But Sunday is a family day, so we don't do any work on a Sunday.
I love how you're just sharing that, how possible it is to get this level of balance and still to grow your business when you're strategic about how you're using your time and making sure that you're really focused on what you need to do. And, you've noticed you're at that pinch point now where you're at or close to capacity, and this is the time to bring someone else into the business and make sure they're ready. How have you approached getting ready to hand over work and delegate to somebody? Are you feeling ready to do that? I know this is like quite daunting for a lot of people.
That I am feeling a wee bit overwhelmed with that. And I'm glad from the start that I got my kind of systems and processes nailed down, but I don't have them all documented. So that's going to be another big focus over the next 6 weeks before he starts, is making sure that I have everything documented and that he can get up and running as quickly as possible. So yeah, I think it's funny how the stages of business go, because at the start, all the questions that you're asking in the Success Lounge are about what software are you using, how are you doing this, like how do you become an agent? And then when it's the next stage, if you're taking on an employee, it'll be like, right, what do I do with this person? Like, how do I get ready for them? So I think that's where the community aspect of these groups is just, there's like that hive mind thing. It's so useful.
Yeah, we've had some discussions about this, and I mean, the way that I've found works best when I'm taking on a new member of staff is so when you've got your whole process from the beginning to the end. So if you was to take a job and what needs to happen at the beginning all the way through to the end, obviously one day, because he's training and is he going to do his qualifications as well? Yeah. So that kind of gives you the map of like, that's your A to Z with him, the whole thing. And what I do with mine is that I start them, at the first 10% of a job. Maybe it is just Dext to begin with. I mean, with Daniel, who's 18, he did his Zero certification. He did his Dext certification. All he did was manage Dext to begin with. But I got him to have the meeting with the software account manager, and I was like, that's your baby. it needs to be, and we have Dext Precision as well, so we could look at the percentages of the health scores of the clients and things. I'm like, your job is to get those numbers higher. I don't care how you do it, and kind of give the responsibility. I learned a lot from James Ashford about result goals, rather than like really breaking down. Yes, you can tell them exactly what to do, and obviously they do their training, but teaching them like the outcome is, I want all the clients, all of their information processed and in there. And now he's at the point of, he's doing the bank reconciliations. So his job now is and he does all the wages journals and things. So I slowly add on. Once he's doing it really, really well and he's getting quicker and quicker, then it's like, right, what else can you do it? Now Laura's managing him, and she's pushing him to the next level and the next level. So I think it's a case about, to build the confidence yourself, is to start them off right at that bottom bit and make sure that you are happy, because then you're not abdicating any control, because you can tell by having a quick scan through Dext whether everything's been processed or not.
Yeah.
And then and you're doing the bank rec, so then maybe they start sending out the missing paperwork requests or whatever it is. But just slowly, and just do one level at a time. That's what I've learned. Over the years, I've built teams and done it all wrong and had all different people on different levels. But this seems to work for me. I feel like I've got control, and they feel like they're progressing. And I mean, he started with us very, very part-time in October, but properly in March. And like now he's doing all the bank recs, like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and all the wages journals, and then he's like, oh, we looked at Brightpen. He's like, I'm sure there's a way, Mum, that you can automate it, so that, because as well, it's really good having lazy employees, because they will find quick ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And also because he's young and he's on his PlayStation and all of that stuff, they think in a different way. And he has come up with ways of the auto publishing on Dext has increased by 7% in the last 6 weeks, and he's done that. So things like that, and because he's results driven. I've made him results driven rather than process driven, and just ticking boxes. So that would be my advice. And at the moment, that's what we're talking. That's what we're doing, and it seems to be working. I'd love to talk about your rebrand. Okay, so when you started, and we spoke to Krishna about this, like she got out there, and like we say, done is better than perfect on day. You've got to start earning some money, haven't you? So why did you decide to change? What influenced that? And then what was the process?
Yeah, so I think at the start, it's always the same. You just want clients, and you don't care how you get them or anything else. And if someone had said, what's your brand, I would be like, what are you talking about? And didn't really think it was very important. So I started off as cabs, which again, in the local area, people knew because people were talking about it. But then it kind of got to the point where people were like, what is that? And then it's such a mouthful to say the full title. And I came across Karen Rayburn and the Profitable Firm, and kind of did their accelerator program, and thought, I think there's something in this branding, marketing thing, and kind of did a deep dive with them. And they were kind of challenged. It was like therapy. They were challenging me on my why, and I'm really strong on my why. It's to be flexible for my family and I'm all about community and things like that. And then I realized that, on my social media, the things I was saying and what I was saying out and about was not reflected. If people went to my website, because I'm on one hand saying, I'm not your traditional accountant. I'm not boring. No offense to any other accountants, but, a bit different. But then they go to my website, what do they get? Like blue, navy blue and turquoise, and just those kind of standard accountancy things, and all the standard jargon that you get on any other accountant's website. And then I was like, right, I want to change this. And I think it does take a wee while. Well, it did for me to actually understand my business and what it actually meant to me, because at the start it was just about replacing my salary. It was because I had to. It wasn't a case of being in the luxurious position of it could be a side hustle or whatever. It had to had to make us money. So that was just that sort of initial phase. And then once I got up and running, I thought, no, my messaging is not reflecting what I want it to. And then I didn't want it to start attracting, the wrong type of client, which you then kind of have calls with, and then you realize you're not a fit. And I think having a strong brand just tells people what you're all about. So I did the rebrand with the Profitable Firm, and it's a really kind of in-depth session, and I'm just absolutely delighted with the change. And I just feel like there's a lot of work on like my values and things like that, and I feel like I can live my life and it reflects the business that I want to project. So I feel more comfortable and confident now.
One of the things you said was you didn't feel like what you were talking about on social media reflected your brand. What did you learn from going through that? Did it change what you put out on social media, or did it just help you to align your branding on your website with what you were putting out on social media more?
Yeah, so what I was putting out was what I wanted to come across like, but my branding and my website didn't reflect that, because I didn't really have a brand, really. I had a logo, which I thought was a brand.
I think everyone does. That's okay, because we're not in that world. That isn't what I'm married to a designer, so we have this conversation all the time. What's the difference between creative and design? Apparently, they're completely different, because it's about like a creative mindset versus the actual technical part of design. And what a lot of bookkeepers will have in our group is something that they've made that looks nice, but what does that actually say about them, or anything about the feeling behind the business, or how you want your client to feel? So I love your new branding, and it does. Someone was saying it really reflects you. I've seen the nice mountains in the background, and it's fab.
So my old logo was kind of an outline of the hills, which I wanted to keep, but same with the kind of accountancy thing. I wanted to give it a twist, giving it a bit of a modern twist, because that's kind of reflects the way I'm trying to run my business. So yeah, they totally nailed it.
Somebody said, does somebody run your website for you and your social media, or they're asking for us to share it. Can we share what your website is for everybody?
Yeah, so at the moment the new website isn't live, but I did send through yesterday the development site. I'll share it in the comments later. It's not going live till next week. But if you go to my current website, you'll see the current more drab one, and then I'll share the new one. But
did you get somebody to build the new website, and did someone build it for you? Yeah. And what about your socials? Will someone do that for you, or do you feel like you can continue to do your own social media?
I think I would like to continue doing it, just because I really enjoy it.
So and that shows. That shows your personality comes through, and I love the fact, because no one else is going to be able to, like, you'd have to get someone from social media, or you'd have to video things and give it to them, because it's about your area, your community, and people want to see you, don't they? And your videos, and you're doing, 100-day challenge at the moment, and you're doing all these videos every day, and people want to get to know you, don't they? And your backdrop and your boys, and it's amazing. It's so lovely. What advice would you give? Because obviously, and I think I'm right in saying that you've reached a good amount of turnover, and you are a 6-figure business.
Not quite getting there.
Nearly a 6-figure business.
Nearly.
Okay, so that is like outstanding and amazing. What would you say to somebody that was at the begin, like where you were when you were maybe doing your qualifications and doing your 3 months notice? And is there anything you wish you'd have done differently, or is there any tips that you would give anyone that's thinking of setting up on their own?
If you're thinking about it, do it. Because I probably pondered on it for too long. And now that I've done it, it's always hindsight, isn't it? You wish you'd done it earlier. Do it, and the other kind of thing I think I would say, which has been so important, is there's always someone you want to do the same kind of thing as they're doing, that they're doing it really well, and they're a few steps ahead of you. Speak to them. Get involved in communities where people are doing the same thing, because people make mistakes and then you can learn from them. That's been really important. There's not many people up where I am doing the same thing. So, if I hadn't got involved in all these groups, it would have been really lonely. So, just get involved, speak to people, and just do it. And you're going to have to go out of your comfort zone, but nothing that's worth doing doesn't put you out of your comfort zone. So you're just going to have to suck it up, just to be not harsh, but I mean, it was scary, but you just got to do it, and you'll reap the benefits.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, you're right. You've got to get out your comfort zone. And you know what? This has happened for Karen in less than a year. So this is it. If you put your mind to it, if you really commit to it, if you stop telling yourself this is just a side hustle, just a bit of extra income, if you go all in on it and you live and breathe it and you make this your thing, and like Karen says, you ask the people who are around you, who are doing the thing, what can I do next to move the needle just a little bit further forward than where I am right now? That's going to help you to take the steps that you need to get to where you can get to. And you can get there. You can have the balance. You can work 4 days a week. You can have your family time at the weekend. You can spend time doing the things you love to do as an entrepreneur, carving the time out to work on your business. And you can get the client work done and keep your clients really happy and earn the money that you need. So thank you so much for sharing your story, because this is so inspiring to everybody, and I'm really inspired. It's amazing. Well done.
Thank you. I think the other thing is to get someone to be your cheerleader, like a coach. I know you guys are doing sort of strategy and coaching. I did the same. I worked with Will Furnell, and in our first meeting, we did a strategy, and I was absolutely terrified by the figures he was telling me. And he said, if you keep going, you either get to a point where you can't manage anymore, so that's fine, you stay as you are. But if you want to grow this, you'll have an employee within X amount of time. And I was like, be quiet. Didn't want to do it. And here we are. So yeah, just having someone to tell you can do it, and you're doing all the right things, because you doubt yourself all the time.
Oh, amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much for taking the time out this morning to talk to everybody. Thanks everyone who's joined us live. I've shared Karen's Instagram handle underneath, and we'll make sure that you'll be sharing in the comments, won't you, your new website link, so everyone can see that. For those of you who are joining us for Bookkeepers Bootcamp, come back at 11 o'clock. We're going to be talking about Instagram. We've had lots of questions this week about different Instagram terminology, what a carousel is, what you can do. We're going to answer some questions. So come along at 11. We'll be back here on LinkedIn and YouTube, and in our Facebook group, the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club. Lots of sessions happening today, so stick with us. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll see you later. Take care. Bye.